obviously.
You know, obviously.
That's right.
I got Dave here.
I think that
You know, we want to welcome everybody here.
Speaking of that,
Celinda. You know, we want to welcome everybody here.
Everything all at once?
Everything all at once.
It's honestly a sensation.
Aliens listen to it.
What's your channel called again?
Everything at once.
That's right. Everything at once. It's a paradox of our own humanity wanting everything everything at once all the time, and the actuality of never really getting everything you want all at once the way that you hope that, or at least the way that I hope that I would get it.
Right.
You know what I mean? It always takes so much more work and dedication to get those things, rather than just it being so nicely and sweetly plopped down in front of you the way I imagined it as a child.
Unless you tune in here, and then you don't have
Then
to
you
put it on the footwork. You get it.
That's right.
Everything at once.
Exactly.
No doubt. We got my boy Jarrod Groves here in the studio today. Me and Jarrod go way back from high school. He's always been a hustler, and he's still hustling like crazy today. And we brought him onto the show to talk about some of the different things that he's got going on. Jarrod was you were a school teacher at JS for a long time, right?
Correct. Yeah.
You didn't go to JS though? What did you?
No, but you did, right?
Oh fuck yeah! Me and all my homies went to JS. It was a good time.
Yeah.
But it's a lot different looking now than it probably was back then.
Well, you were probably there right when they were remodeling
Right before they remodeled it, dude.
Oh, so you saw
We were in the shit. Yeah, we were in the shit. Fuck yeah.
Nice.
It was good stuff. What did you teach there?
I taught language arts. Originally, I was teaching English as a second language. Mm-hmm. That was in the city, and so I had all of our refugee population. But then I took a position in Mill Creek, so your basic language arts suburban classroom.
Yeah. What books did you guys have to read?
Dude, we came back to the classic. The first book that I ever actually read was The Outsiders.
Oh, nice. And that's what you taught?
book, yeah.
I didn't read as a kid, but I was like, what? Knives? Guns? I'm like, all right, I'm in.
Yeah.
So, but it kind of came full circle like a lot of things did, where, now I came back and I'm teaching this book to the same population.
The future you, or whatever.
Yeah. So a bunch of me's.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
And have you always been like a big fan of English? Like, how'd you get into that? Like, I know you used to be doing music and writing and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's why I geared toward English. Honestly, I think when I was going to school, I saw English as the type of class that if an administrator was walking in and you're talking about who knows what, like, hey, this fits in somewhere to the story we're reading or something. It leaves a lot of open conversation. I think that's what I was thinking back in college. But, besides that, like you said, I was always a lyricist. So, I wanted to work with words if I was going to teach.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I like that idea that if you're teaching a language arts class, you have some room to play around too.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Like in math, like you walk in math class, if you're talking about Indonesia
or anything,
the culture of Indonesia, it's like, are you guys on track?
Yeah.
See, I also went to school for English, and that was my favorite part of high school, but more like the college curriculum, was that I'd be sitting in an algebra class. I won't lie, I failed algebra 3 times just because it was so boring.
Right.
Like, I'd fall asleep just to the same, getting to the same point shit. And,
it's tough.
having, the English teachers and professors just, expound on different ideas was always something that was super interesting to me, too.
Definitely. That culture of, the English department in colleges is always cool. You get those kind of spacey professors and the lit guys,
And the artsy people, the stuff that have some perspective, you know what I mean? Outside of what we've experienced our whole lives, through reading and through seeing all these different things.
You're right. Literature ties into art easier than some of the others.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a creative hub for sure.
Right.
Are you still rapping?
I'm still writing, always, and I got a couple tracks I'm working on, but not as active. I always looked at it as a hobby. It was never a proposed career for me.
That's very realistic.
It was a
of you.
hobby, so I guess the only reason is I'm not making time for hobbies as much, just hustling more.
Right.
When did you get into that? Writing, rapping,
Young, we were kids, so we through high school we were always writing raps. We started recording them and trying to turn it into something through event promotions.
Mm-hmm.
And etc.
Yeah, definitely, dude. Who were some of your rap influences back then?
Rap influences. We listened to a lot of underground artists.
I know.
When we were younger, we liked that really raw
Yeah, dude. Like Immortal Technique. And
Immortal
Jedi
Technique's
Mind
one of my
tracks.
favorites. Jedi Mind for sure.
Atmosphere.
Yeah. Paz.
Yeah, we were really into the lyrical stuff when we were younger, and it showed, I think, in the music we were making then, because
Definitely.
sometimes the beats and the mixing wasn't focused on as much as the lyricism.
Right. All those double and triple rhyme scheme syllables really, I think, show a high quality of technique and skill. Whenever I hear a rapper doing that, I always have a lot of respect for
Right.
them.
Yeah, that was kind of our generation. It's a little more flowing beats now.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
And production.
Yeah.
Making everything sound real cool.
Right. Which nothing wrong with that either.
Nah, I mean, I guess I could say there's nothing really wrong with that. People are going to like what they're going to like, but to me personally, I would much prefer content, quality content and a high level or degree of skill. But I've always been such a fucking snob with music. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no doubt.
If some of these people just can't hack it compared to the other people that I listen to now and used to listen to.
I think the popular people or rappers when we were younger, I mean, it's a different style, but I don't think it's necessarily a big difference. I think back to some of my favorite mainstream rappers, like Dipset, Cam'ron, Joel Santana. Jay-Z's a great lyricist, but he kind of was a beats and flow type guy.
Right.
The game always is changing, but I feel like you can absolutely find the kind of artists that we listened to when we were younger, on the scene right now. There's always, the underground's always just been far more fascinating to me in the rap scene.
And I feel like I'm not as young and ambitious to go out and search through the shit to find somebody anymore.
And there's so much now.
Yeah.
I will say some of the new artists I think are doing a better job of balancing that lyricism with the beats and flow, because that's what I try to do as a balance. I want all the punchlines, the lyrics, but I don't want to just appeal to hip-hop heads, right? I want someone to be able to play this, in any environment and people enjoy it, or what are you really doing,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what we make, is to send the message to the people, you know what I mean?
Right.
Bring it out. Some of the new people I've been listening to a lot is Benny the Butcher and 38 Spesh, and that whole crew from Buffalo is just fucking sick.
Yep.
Those are my boys lately. I always keep it real G too. I don't know if I like this, I mean, it's good, but I'm not really a Mac Miller fan. I'd rather hear people talk about selling crack and shooting people in the streets.
Right. Yeah.
Keeping that gangster alive, you know what I'm saying?
I've always been a big, at least for, more recent rappers, I've always been a big T Grizzly fan myself. That's my fucking dude, I like listening to people talk about selling crack and shit too.
It's that hustle.
Yeah, it's fun. It doesn't mean you have to do it.
Right.
Everybody's always like, why you listen to that? You don't do that. It's not, I don't have to share the same activity to share the same energy.
Right.
You know what I mean? You just feel like you're on top of your game. You just sold a bunch of, you know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
Even though you're on your way to go sit in a cubicle, but as long as it's pumping you up, then it's the feel, not so much.
When you write lyrics, with your language arts background as well, the storytelling background, do you find yourself being more based in telling your own life story, or just kind of going into the imagination, things you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I do. I've tied in stories connected to my life, but I think a lot of my lyrics are abstract. I'll do the specific punchlines and metaphors, but overall it's an imagery thing. I'm just trying to paint a picture in your mind. It doesn't necessarily need to make a point.
Right.
But I'm trying to paint a picture. So it becomes kind of abstract sometimes, where it's almost like if you read that out loud, you're like, does that make sense? I don't know, but when it's said with the beat like that, it's making me picture, you know, that's usually my goal.
Right.
Lately, more so. Like I said, when we were younger, it was straight lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the combos, the etc. But you got to try and make music that people can feel without focusing too much too.
Right.
Because not everyone wants to put on an album and like really zone out and listen to it. You know, sometimes they just want it to accompany what they're doing.
Right. And I like it when stuff's a little bit more ambiguous too than straightforward. I think that's like a really key part in any art, is that like a song may make me feel one way, but it doesn't have to necessarily make you or the other people feel that same way. No, it could bring out like something completely different for them, and I think that's like a quality of like good art, you know what I mean? Being able to evoke those different feelings for different people.
And of any art, right? So you can take it from painting to lyrics to, yeah.
I always thought rap was one of the most difficult art forms. Hip hop is one of the most difficult art forms to get into, because you have like other kinds of like music or painting, or if you're writing a story, you don't get so much called out on your background. You know, like with rap, like there's a lot of like it has to be connected to like what
this
you've
guy ain't
done.
actually street or whatever.
Right, you know, like a studio type thing. Like if I'm listening to a rock band and they're talking, you know, like a metal band or something, they're talking about like murdering thousands of people, or like you know what I'm saying? Like they're all, you know, it's obviously fantasy, but a lot of the times in rap, it's like this person has to back it up with street cred, and it just makes it so much more difficult.
Yeah, that sounds like a real struggle for them too, because they have to like meet the standards of this character they created. Right, because even if, you know, like you said, like you're saying it, rapping about it, so you're supposed to back it all up, but regardless, they're creating a
fantasy, a story,
character, an ego, really a projection of their ego. And then, you know, I think that's probably explains some of the crazy lifestyles some of them lead, because it's like, I got to keep up with this picture I painted.
Yeah, I gotta have
whereas,
my
like you
20
said,
chains
if it's a, you know, a band touching on a topic that isn't completely related to them, we're not like the Beatles didn't do that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
I've never seen those bastards in a submarine.
Yeah, exactly. And in a submarine.
Fucking liars, dude.
Right.
And I think that the rap music also is like, it always makes me want to hustle. It makes me want to go out and strive for more, you know what I mean? There's like this hunger to it. There's always this hunger of like chasing the next big thing, that next
especially like from where we come from, or the time period we come from. You're right, like nowadays it's a little more of like bragging about how little they have to do,
right?
But you're right, there was a hunger to it, you know, in a lot of the hip-hop music, because they probably were fighting for it. And you know, a lot of them do come from situations where they don't have anything.
Right, exactly, dude. And I think that hunger translates for a lot of our generation too. You know what I mean? We're out there grinding. We're doing other shit. Everybody's got a side hustle. Everybody's finding different ways to make a come up. You know what I mean? And you've been doing a lot of, I see all your pictures on Facebook all the time of you like buying houses and flipping shit and like selling like the things that you find there and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
How long you been doing that on the side?
Really since the beginning of, you know, I guess my career, because even, you know, like you mentioned, like my online presence, I think people see that as like the things I'm posting. They're thinking realtor.
Yeah.
And because that is what I am doing. I'm a realtor and I'm trying to promote that.
Right.
But I actually wasn't even a realtor in the beginning of my real estate career. Yeah, the first 3 or 4 years, I was investing. I was, you know, buying dilapidated properties, turning them to rentals, you know, maybe a flip, this and that. I actually originally got my realtor's license like, hey, you know what? In my dealings, this might save me money, save me hassle. But then it became, you know, one of the main focuses.
For sure.
How difficult is it to get into real estate?
You know, questions like that are hard to answer for me, because like, it's not difficult at all, actually. Actually, it's not difficult to get into real estate, but when people ask that, it's hard for me to answer it specifically, because it depends like what avenue you want to get into.
Right.
And that's what I love about real estate, and I try to just bring it full circle, because you could be talking about getting into investments and rentals. That doesn't take anything. You don't need a certification. You don't need anything.
It takes something, dude. You gotta have that fucking money.
Bread, but you know, and there's different ways to come up with that bread.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, you could be getting into investments, or you could be getting into being a realtor, or then there's services, like say you're doing plumbing or painting services. You know, so there's so many aspects. I feel like real estate is a part of everything.
Right.
You know, any career you go into, the building you're in is commercially leased. So it really depends. When people say, hey, how do I get into real estate? It's like, what avenue do you want to take on first?
Do you want to be a first-time homeowner, or are you trying to get investment properties?
Right.
Are you trying to do whatever? You know, there's a lot of different stuff going on.
Yeah.
And that barrier seems to be changing all the time, too. You know what I mean? Some people have, like, a really hard time getting into their first home, whereas other people are, you know, buying tons of houses all over the place. And I think that whole aspect is really interesting, like the social dynamic of it and everything that goes behind that.
Right. Yeah, you know, my career in real estate started with just ownership, trying to acquire properties in any way. I think the attraction to real estate for me was originally residual income.
Yeah. Right.
Because, you know, when you're younger, like in your early 20s, you know, you still believe, or you want to believe that, hey, there's a way that I can make a bunch of money and not do anything for it.
Exactly.
I still dream.
and your poor dad will tell you, it doesn't work that way, son. You know, you got to go get a job. You got to work for what you make. But that's not necessarily the case. You know, and real estate is kind of that key to opening the door to funds that you don't have to work for every time. You don't have to work for every single dollar. And so I think in my early 20s, I was like, all right, how can I come up with, you know, free money or easy money that I don't have to work for?
Right. I'm trying to live my life here.
Right. Yeah, let me live. And I think rental properties was kind of what I came up with, because I'm like, you know, okay, this is too easy. You buy a duplex, your bills on it are $400, you're collecting $1,200. I was like, there's that free, easy money. So I think I was really attracted to the residual income, started trying to tap into that, and then just, like I said, try to make it full circle, because real estate connects very easily to other things. You know, like I said, with the services versus realtor work. As a realtor, I could help someone find or sell a home, but then thereafter that, does that home need painted?
Right.
Because we also do painting services.
Yeah.
You know, and do you need to rent a place in between the transition from home to home? We do rentals, you know, so you try to just full service kind of thing.
Right, incorporate as much as you can into the many streams that are out there, you know.
Right.
And how many properties do you have now, if you don't mind me asking?
No, I don't mind. I have 12 rental properties.
Cool.
Yeah.
I feel like is that a lot?
It's, you know, it really depends if you own them or not. I think some people might have 30 investment properties with 30 mortgages.
Yeah.
You know, so really, I think in the end, depending on what you think a lot is, you got to do the math on how much equity is there. So I have 12 rental properties, but a lot of them I acquired, you know, cash, because they were so dilapidated, fixed them up, and, you know, owning something outright cash is, you know, cash is king. Then everything you collect on, it's all profit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. Is it a lot?
Enough for you to go full time and doing this stuff.
Yeah. That's my nest egg. That's what I'm sitting on. Yeah. And it's why I try to encourage everybody, especially friends and family, to do that same thing. You know, acquire properties, get some residual income.
Right.
But is it a lot? I don't know. It's, you know,
relatively
is it
speaking.
enough? It never is, right? I mean, I think one of my goals right now are to have 20 properties owned outright. Because I feel like at that point you have at least $1 million in equity, and you're collecting, you know, $15,000 to $25,000 a month. So that's, I mean, and that's assuming that you own them all, right? Right. Minus your bills. It depends how you buy your way in, and at the same time, I'm kind of boosting the idea of owning something outright, but at the same time, you can have all those mortgages and everything as long as, you know what I mean, you're making
Enough
more
to cover
profit
it,
after
yeah.
the bills. So there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people are scared of debt, and they're scared to make moves, and, I don't want this debt on me. But there's a difference between good debt and bad debt.
Right.
It's a good debt if your payment on it is, way less than
What you're recouping.
what you're collecting. So I mean, good. I'd rather use their money if
Yeah.
I can. Even if I had the choice, I don't always have the choice. Sometimes you run out of
Yeah.
funds and you need to use someone else's money, but I'd rather use their money. I wish they'd loan me more money and I'd keep buying more properties, but
Right. At this point, you probably got a system pretty well worked out.
system, yeah.
Are there certain things you look for when you're buying a house?
Oh, you mean acquiring them? Yeah, I look for if it does need fixed up to there's still to be a huge equity gap between what I have into it and what it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
It could be completely dilapidated, but if it's $10,000 and then I'm going to have to put 30 into it to make it new, remodeled, everything.
Right.
I got 40 into it. If it's worth 80, then that was a good move.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're sitting on the equity while then collecting rent on it.
Yeah.
But when you said system, I thought you meant like with the whole thing. Because a lot of times
Wow.
people are like, how do you manage all this shit? Like, what is your system? And to be honest, I don't really have one.
Yeah. Just go for it.
yeah. And I
It
think,
seems to be working anyway.
right. And I think I probably lost money with that. I mean, obviously I budget things, but I mean, as far as I'm kind of disorganized, but I feel like that disorganization has also been what kind of propelled me at times. Because where some people stop, let me look at this and figure, I'm just keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going. And then it ends up, panning out for you. But
See, at least when we were kids, or at least in my experience, it wasn't around, but we were talking about education earlier. Now we're into the real estate and passive income and residual income. And I really wish that there would have been more emphasis on financial literacy.
Yeah.
When I was learning about things in
Right.
school.
Yeah.
That's all I keep thinking with these things being
Yeah.
tied together.
instead of a parallelogram.
Instead of it could be useful if you're.
It's good knowledge,
It's
but
good.
you need some adult to come out and guide you and teach you about this shit that's actually going to improve your quality of life compared
Right.
to something that is
Abstract.
abstract or good knowledge or shows that you have a certain level of competency with
Right.
math and the world around you.
Well, and they're more interested in that too, honestly, when you bring it up. I found myself through the years being more comfortable delving into those things with the kids. Things I think are actually important to them, talking about real estate with them. I do all these mini lessons, you know what I mean? They'd either be like, here we go, or they'd be like, yeah, he's doing another one of these rants. You know what I mean? But,
Right.
to give them that real world perspective of things they can do. So I agree with you guys. It should be more part of it. But, that's kind of the teacher's job to incorporate those things within the curriculum.
Yeah,
Some
right.
people be complain about the curriculum or whatever. Fit it in there. That's your job.
Yeah.
Open their minds while following the whole public school system thing.
Yeah, that's where I think the craft of a good teacher comes in, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because you are given a very strict, what I imagine to be a very strict guideline of what the things you have to cover and they have to be prepared for and know by a certain period. But throughout that, a good person and a good talker and a person that understands the language and stuff can breach into those different areas
Yep.
through those topics.
Yeah, and you get better at it if you care to.
How long were you teaching for?
This would have been my 10th year.
So
I
almost right
resigned
out of-
here from the full-time position here in the fall. Yeah, I was about to hit my 10-year marker.
Cool.
Yeah, I just had my nephew in class at J.S. Wilson.
Oh, nice.
We always joked. I was like, after I have Anthony, I'm done. I'm doing real estate, and it actually did kind of happen that way. Law of attraction.
Yeah,
But it wasn't necessarily the only reason I pulled the trigger now. But yeah, so I had him in class. I was looking forward to that, and that's where really you see the importance of teaching them those life skills, because you see your own nephew sitting in that classroom, right? Mm-hmm. And you start to really be concerned with what type of skills he'll be able to apply later.
Right. Yeah, you really need those positive influences as a child because you just don't know this shit.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like us all here have experienced that and gone through that and learned that and probably had some people help us along the way. But there's a lot of people that, you know, we might be all they get as far as an introduction into that shit.
That's right. Not everybody's as lucky.
Yeah. So you mentioned like the law of attraction just now. You big into like manifesting stuff?
If you were to ask my students from last year, they'd be like, yeah, he's like, believes that, because I go through the whole thing with them. I mean,
You guys make vision boards?
Similar to that, like I kind of walked them through a process I learned from a book called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, and it's like basically, you know, you can change anything in your life. It's kind of like a Buddhist, and where does it start? It starts with imagining it.
Yeah.
You know, and so we would literally, like, I'd make them all close their eyes. Just imagine whatever it is you want to change. The second step is to personalize it, to tell people. Post it on Facebook, tell your mom, you know what I mean? And so then there's these steps that go from there. And
right. It all kind of guides you in the right direction. I think that there's a lot of people who are very woo-woo about that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of people who use that kind of stuff practically and use it as motivation and the drive to go out and get those things,
right,
and to seize those opportunities when they're in front of them.
Right. It doesn't have to be magic.
No. Yeah. And one of my favorite things as far as like the positive affirmations and that goes is, you know, I remember reading that if you want to manifest things in your life, instead of being like, okay, I'm out of shape, I'm going to go to the gym, or I go to the gym, or whatever, you say, like, I am a person that works out.
Right.
You know, like, you make yourself what you want to be.
Right.
And the more you tell it to yourself, it's almost like a fake it till you make it type thing.
Yeah.
But you just got to keep, like, nailing it in your head so that you get that right direction with what you want to do. I love that shit. I love law of attraction type stuff.
It really does seem to work. And again, I mean, people, like, when you first talk about it, it's like, oh, it's magic. You can just change the world in front of you.
Yeah.
It's not. When you break it down, it's not really magic. You're doing it.
You got to put the work in.
Yeah, you're thinking about it and then, like, thinking about how it can be done. So...
And that drive and that obsession and just having those thoughts on your mind, I think, really go a long way whenever you're doing anything. Like getting through school, graduating college, all that kind of shit, you know what I mean? Or like buying a property, like getting this house, like that's all I fucking thought about for months before I finally got this house. I was like, I'm gonna buy a house, I'm gonna buy a house, I'm gonna buy a house. Looking on the fucking internet every day, putting in the work, thinking about it, imagining myself in a house, you know, all that shit kind of just leads you in that direction. You know, it keeps you motivated and keeps you focused on whatever it is you're trying to attain.
And I think it's like a good way of using your ego too. Like, you go and tell a bunch of people what you're gonna do, and then you feel like you can't make a liar out of yourself. You know, you don't want to be like, well, dumbass, I told everyone I was gonna buy a house, and here I am just fucking twiddling my thumbs. You know, and so it's
now I can't post pictures of my apartment.
Right.
Yeah, dude.
Right. Every time you see people, they're like, so Jarrod, so Tony, how's that house coming? You're like, oh, yeah, whatever. You know.
So what was the book called? The Zen monk who sold his Ferrari.
The monk who sold his Ferrari.
Cool.
Yeah.
And would you say you're big on Western religions at all? Like any Buddhist
I'm really attracted to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I don't identify with anything, and I wouldn't.
It's very Buddhist of you.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Because if you did. But very attracted to all those concepts.
Right. You said you did a little bit of traveling over there recently. Was that a part of your trip?
It always ends up a part of the trip, and I do, you know, obviously I'm choosing where I'm going, but I keep finding myself gravitating toward places like that, where you find a lot of temples.
Yeah.
You know, whether it be like Nepal, where I was in the fall, or you know, you go to Asia, Thailand, Bali. Yeah, you end up in these Hindu temples, Buddhist temples, and it's just so peaceful. And it's not even just a temple; it's the culture that surrounds it and things like that. And then you break into like, okay, why are these people so happy and relaxed? And you start reading into like, they're not proverbs, but like the Buddhist like phrases that you might, similar to what you might find like the proverbs
from the Dhammapada and stuff like that,
or like a Tao Te Ching type thing.
Learning the way.
It just makes a lot of sense. You know what I mean? It helps you make sense of things, right?
Yeah, and it's easy. The stuff that I've read too is really easy to grasp. It's pretty. There's not a lot of shit that I need to delve into real deep. They're like a 1 or 2 page poem that I can read through and see like, oh, okay, this is telling me if I do A, B and C will happen, or if I want to be A, I need to do it B and C. You know, it's straightforward and really simple and easy to apply in other aspects of our life.
Right, not so much rules.
Yeah,
they're more like
just teachings or guidance.
Yeah.
That was one of the really cool things about when we went to Sedona this year. We went to this one park and they just had a giant Buddhist, I forget what they're called, like a huge fucking statue in the middle of this park and flags all over the place. Yeah. And we weren't expecting it at all. We were just going to hang out in this park for a little bit before we were going to do our next thing. And Sedona in itself is just a really cool, like kind of a Zen, peaceful, spiritual type place.
Right. So Arizona's beautiful.
Yeah, it's crazy out there.
Yeah.
What were you doing out in Nepal?
So Nepal, I was actually, we were vacationing mainly, but we spent a portion of the trip at the refugee camps in Joppa, Nepal. Mm-hmm. My partner that I was with, he was born in these camps. But it was a really cool opportunity for me because when I got hired as a teacher, as a ESL teacher, English as a second language, they needed a teacher because they had the influx of refugees and Nepali refugees. So we have
like Nepali neighbors around here too.
Oh yeah, yeah. A lot of them started living in the city, you know, as refugees, and you know now they're branching out.
Right.
But you know, I would have never been hired at the time I was as a teacher if it wasn't for that influx of Nepali refugees and all the refugees. So I really just feel like I owe that culture entirely for kind of the path they set me on.
Yeah.
And so to go back to the refugee camps that they were from and born was really just an awesome experience.
That's super full circle.
Yeah, it was. And it was especially full circle because, you know, the individual I went with, Kishore, his family was, I had his sister in school, right? I didn't have him, but I had his family in school. So this is one of the families from our school. Yeah. And here we are, you know, 6-7 years later, and you know, I'm doing business with these individuals, with this community, with past students.
Sure.
And him specifically because he just started this hugely successful business.
Cool. What's he doing? Give him a shout out.
Yeah. Kishore has it's called Star Plus, home care services. So a lot of people don't realize, especially from our community, growing up in the suburbs, you don't realize as much, but there's services. If you're disabled or if you're over 65 years old and you don't have money, you're entitled to care services.
Right.
You know, and so that's kind of what we educate people on and provide these care services for them. But yeah, just a lot of full circle stuff. You know, I'm standing in Nepal at the refugee camps that these kids told me stories about year after year. You know, I always kind of thought I'd go there, but just in that fashion, to be brought into the middle of the camps by someone who grew up there, came to America and was successful. Right. You know, it was very humbling. Yeah, I guess you could say.
That's really cool. Like the whole communal aspect too of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like now, you started out working with this dude, or
as his realtor.
Yeah, and
that was the first. So I'm his realtor.
Right, and now he's your homie, and you're working with other Nepali people, and you taught these Nepali kids that were coming in, and now you're over there. To help, like that's just. I think that makes me believe in a higher power or something out there kind of guiding shit.
I know something keeps bringing me full circle, and I've struggled, but these things also are like, you know, again, law of attraction falling in my lap. I was just speaking of law of attraction. I was just talking a moment ago. My friend had a picture of my first CD cover when I was 19.
Oh shit!
And I couldn't
remember
find
those
that
CDs.
cover. Yeah,
I don't think I have the CD anymore. Like,
but if you look at the cover, we like photoshopped in me. Standing next to a box truck like this.
Yeah.
And the box truck's full of stuff, and then I'm next to this just empty, beat down storefront. And you know, at the time, I wasn't thinking real estate. I wasn't even knowing what I'd go to college for, this and that. You know, but then here I find myself years later, pretty much literally the same thing. You know, we're working out of box trucks.
Hell yeah.
I have a storefront on Peach Street. I'm trying to remodel to be my office, and it's just like, I forgot about that CD cover, and then I looked at it. I'm like, wow. I'm like, you know,
Some crazy shit.
right. I planted those seeds at a young age or something, but
Hell yeah.
I mean, I think that's a great example of why it's so important to chase your passions instead of like settling for a paycheck or maybe taking like,
Right.
you know, the safe way of doing things. I feel like when you're doing things you're passionate about, you're so engaged that it's not just something you loathe doing, and then you get to make these awesome connections, and
Right.
things do get to come full circle. Like if you hate your job, or you know, if you're not willing to take a chance for something that really interests you,
right.
then you're never gonna get to make these like real ethereal connections with the world around you.
Yeah, I agree, for sure.
Right, and having that evidence of the past and where you are now is something real special too.
Right.
You know, and you've been doing a little bit of speaking of the getting back onto the music. I've been seeing you do some events on the Victorian Princess.
Sorry, Princess. Yeah, we were doing the rave cruises.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
dude.
those
Yeah.
parties look awesome.
Yeah, they ended up a lot of fun. It was good energy. Like, we started with like the daytime one, more like house music, you know, hot weather kind of thing. But then it started getting colder, so we did a couple night raves. Yeah, it was fun. You know, we were doing it to just throw parties, let people promote themselves. You know, me as a realtor, Hectic Travelers was the clothing line kind of sponsoring it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good time, and really, I'm just trying to get some of those promotional juices going again.
Mm-hmm.
We do hope to do some things in the near future involving music venue and hopefully a bar, a nightclub lounge kind of thing. But
Cool.
yeah, we're struggling to get a liquor license. But yeah, we figured throw some parties just that way. You know, if we do something in
name's
this,
out there.
yeah, we do something in the spring. That, you know what I mean? We're already kind of on the books.
For sure. And I think that Erie always has had like a electronic scene, so to speak.
Right.
But a lot of times, like the only electronic shows that I've ever been to that people showed up for were the 814
Bass crew, yeah.
And other than that, like if anybody was had like an electronic night or an electronic concert around here, there'd be like 10, 15 people at it. Other than the bass crew shows, which were fucking
I think that whole
packed.
I think that type of music's becoming more and more popular through festivals, through everything. Actually, the Joe from the 814 bass crew, he's doing an event on December 9th at King's Road.
Oh, nice. Good for him.
Yeah, so they're doing like house, techno music kind of thing. So that's cool. He was kind of like, you know what I mean, the godfather of that shit.
You're right,
You're
exactly, yeah.
So I haven't seen him in a while. I'm looking forward to going and checking that out.
December 9th, I'll have to check my calendar, make sure it's going on. But I haven't been to an electronic show in fucking a long time.
Yeah, that died for me with the Crooked Eye.
Yeah.
When they closed the doors, like I used to go to all those shows down
8-Bit
there.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Dude, they had a bunch of cool shit.
We need more venues. You know, King's Rock is the shit. I like it there a lot.
Yeah.
But I would like some variety. We're trying to open something up.
That's the key too. Is I can only see Aqueous and Tropodelic so many times before I'm ready to blow my brains out. Don't take that the wrong way. If anybody's like from the Rook is listening, I love you guys and you do a great job and you promote excellent shows. But fuck, man, I need to see some other shit.
All right, I don't think it's even like seeing the same bands over and over can get a little tedious, but at the same time, if it's different bands but it's always just the same venue and the same people, like it can get boring. You know, it's good to have that variety of places you can go that are happening and there's people around. It spices things up.
That's the main thing. It's the limitation of venues. You know what I mean? You have these few places that are willing to do it, and then if you want to try something out of the box that isn't with one of these few venues, what are you going to go to the convention center and pay them $20,000 for a ballroom?
Pass.
I mean, so it makes it tough, and I see an outlet there for another good venue to be around.
I think there's the people there to fill it too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not that there's not enough people to go to these shows. It's that they're like, I don't know, maybe it's poorly promotion. I'm not sure what it is, but I feel like the audience is fucking there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I will say Erie's weird, so you never know. You know, you don't know who to blame for a bunch of whack events, whether it's the venue or promoters. Erie is weird sometimes, and to be honest, with those boat parties, I'm impressed that we got out as many as people as we did, because for the cost that the boat and everything was going, we had to sell $35 tickets.
Right.
And that's too much for Erie. I'm surprised people came out, showed out, and that was awesome. We had a great time. Well worth coming and spending the money, but still in Erie, you can't get people to spend $35. So
hard, unless you have like a big fucking show or something like that.
I feel like being on a boat too kind of feels like a bougie thing a little bit, you know. So it's like showing out a little bit. I'll pay the $35 because we're doing some like, you know, some real
shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, and it is fun being out there. It's worth it. And little do they know they're chipping in on just the cost to take the boat out, right? But my point with bringing up the boat parties again is just like it's hard to get people to spend money in Erie. You know, and I've been down that road with events that should have went great, that were awesome, you know, and sometimes Erie just doesn't show out. I don't know what it is.
Everything kind of comes in waves around here too. You know what I mean? It seems like we'll have like a dry couple of years with not a lot of stuff going on, and then like 1 or 2 years where things are just popping off like, left and right. There's tons of shit that I want to go to that's local. And
I think we need a big venue to bring in bigger artists, right? Like Kings Rock brings in out of town bands, but like we need a little more venue space. We need to book like Big Gigantic or like obviously not acts that are Civic Center, but like
still big,
a little bigger. I think people come out because I think people. It's like you said. It's like
I think that
blank band that played 5 times here this year is coming. Like great.
Yeah,
I think it's
not that exciting.
I think it's like a testament to how the times have changed too. Because I'm friends, you know some older people who, you know, were around 70s and 80s, like Erie Fieldhouse type days, and like you look at the acts that used to come here back in those days. They were like you get like the Ozzy Osbournes and like the Black Sabbaths and like these huge bands that were coming to play in Erie.
Right.
And so I don't know if it's like a change in the landscape of how the music scenes run over the years.
What my friend told me that was booking a lot of shows, Elvis, when she was booking tons of shows, is that a lot of the bigger bands have like non-compete clauses, and Erie is just close enough to the three that one of them is going to be within that radius of where they can perform other shows.
Right.
That's what happens when monopolies take place, you know, but that's another conversation for another time.
Also, if they come to Erie too, I feel like they're still gonna fill out that fucking show. The people that go to Pittsburgh and to Buffalo and to Cleveland from here are the same people in those other cities that would come to Erie to see those bands. Which is why you just need like maybe a little bit bigger of a venue that could attract more people and could fill that.
I always thought it was weird. I mean, maybe because, you know, we grew up in like the suburbs or at least close enough to the city or went to public schools or whatever. It always blew my mind like how much Erie gets up for country music, because it always seems like the only like, you know, national acts or big acts that come here are country music.
I know.
You know, like Erie Days.
They start throwing country concerts.
Yeah, like Erie Days. It's like every year the main final act is always a country musician. You know,
a building was for sale and might still be. I need to look into it. Teasers.
Oh yeah,
the strip club out there.
Right,
familiar.
we kicked around the idea of a bunch of us throwing in on it. That and the Jewish temple, dude. That one I had my heart set on buying that.
Where's that?
On 10th and Liberty. It was like $200,000 and 10,000 square feet, and it was fucking massive. I have to
see that again. Yeah, your insurance probably bought it.
I don't know who bought it.
It's in that area.
But it's 10th and Liberty. It's like right across the street from that one gas station with the kick-ass tacos on 10th and Liberty.
Right.
And it had like a big fucking sermon area or whatever that would obviously turn into stage room. It had all the classrooms and shit, which would be like little studios for people or restaurants or, you know what I mean, like the flagship food hall or something.
We do a lot with it.
Yeah, it was so much space.
But you acquire a big building like that, it comes with a lot. We've been looking at a couple places, Kishore and I actually, that I mentioned, you know, some bigger event spaces. Like if we were to really pull the trigger, that would be not as big as like the convention center, just a step down, but we'd be able to book out of town acts, big events.
Like a Stage AE size place, or?
Oh no, smaller than that, a little smaller than that, but
like bigger than like basement transmissions.
Oh yeah. Because if we, you know, I think we need a venue that size to do some little bigger things.
Yeah, it would be nice, man. I would go see it. I think other than the country bands that are like nationally touring, the only other ones that I ever see are metal bands. And metal bands sell out, like good metal bands sell out Basement Transmissions every time, but there's only, I don't know, 5 or 6 or 7, however many heads can fit in that place.
Right.
And
like maybe like the Agora size.
Okay.
You know, Cleveland.
Yeah.
Like something like that. So you can get some circling touring acts.
Right. Yeah, Gore Theater's good size too. Plus they have that other little like smaller stage, you know, which is pretty sweet. I wish you the best of luck in that, dude. I hope it comes through. I want to see some big fucking...
Yeah, something will come eventually. It just depends on how much time it'll take.
Have you worked a lot with like booking bands?
You know, that whole time I was spending a lot of time as an artist. I was spending an equal amount of time promoting events, organizing events. Right. You know, so I always try to book a big act and put myself as an opening act, you know, or something like that. Sure. So I dabbled with it a little bit, not extensively. Yeah. So I could learn more about booking, and that would be something that would help.
It'll definitely be a part of it. I mean, and that's part of the whole thing is like when you have this big ambition or this big dream, there's going to be a ton of shit that you need to learn throughout the whole time.
Right. I mean, we did Crooked Eye. We would work with Marty and book acts. We worked with him on Dead Prez, Bubba Sparks, etc. We tried to bring the Bone Thugs up to I mean, it was fun, but again, Erie didn't show up for that. And even back then, I look back, there were $15 tickets.
That's wild to me.
That was a little while ago, but you know, still
$15 is pretty reasonable.
Yeah. You know what I've noticed, like with Erie though, is just like really. The only events that ever seem to really go hard and people always consistently show up for are the ones that are free to admission. 8 Great Tuesdays, all the festivals, when they used to do the block parties, every Tuesday in the summer, it's just packed at the amphitheater. And it's like people still spend money on drinks and stuff, but like lowering that barrier just to make it free, that seems to be the only thing.
Yeah, like you said, Erie doesn't want to spend the money, and that's fine.
It's weird because like tons of our boys, at least tons of my boys and our friends from back then, all go to $40-$50 concerts and will drive to Buffalo or Cleveland or Pittsburgh. And I got to imagine there's other people that we don't know that are doing that same shit all the time.
I think that's why I'm trying to get into a position where we own the venue, because then we can do things like that. Like if we're making the liquor sales, then cool. We don't need to charge the door. We just need to get everybody here. Yeah. Book the band, free concert.
Have a good time.
Yeah, etc.
Make them want to come back.
When you're pressured by the costs and the overhead of these venues, you're already, you know, in the hole before you get started. So I went through that struggle of event organizing and everything costing more than it needs to, or this or that. So I guess that's kind of what I'm seeing is if I do get back into events full time, I need to be connected, in control of the venue. Yeah. You know, we need a venue. Otherwise, I'm good. I'm not, you know, gonna do all that.
You don't want to pay the house.
No.
Yeah.
That's your money. That's your money from putting on the event. You know.
Unless the house is reasonable or the house is giving bar cuts, but like none of these venues are trying to do that.
Well, especially if you're in charge too. Like you get to handle the whole, like going back to the law of attraction, how it's like promoted as a venue, because I think that's a big thing too. Before we started up with our conversation, we were talking about how, you know, Erie, like the slogan is, it's okay to love Erie. And I think what it is a lot of people think that it's just like lame around here, or like there's like this impetus to just like leave. Yeah. You know, leave here, go somewhere else.
Everybody's goal is to get out eventually.
Right. Or even if it's not like to leave the city permanently, it's like if you want to do something fun, you have to go somewhere else. Yeah. You know, because that's just like the self-defeating like view a lot of people have. And I think it would be great, you know, if you owned your own venue, to like build it up as something that is cool, that is a place to be, that's something that you can have an awesome time at, see great acts, and it would be a great way to build it up.
For sure.
Yeah. Good stuff, dude. I mean, Erie's a good place to be, I feel like. I mean, you're still here. Yeah. I'm still here.
That's right.
And a lot of people are returning too, you know, like a lot of the people that...
For good or bad reasons, yeah.
For good or bad reasons. Sometimes both, you know what I mean? Right. But I think it's important to foster that sense of community and to make this a better place instead of just like retreating or disregarding it or
Right.
moving away. You know, like we have this cool place, this like sweet area with beaches and a fucking
Right.
big ass lake and all of this shit already here. If we just like put some time and a little bit of love into that shit, you know,
Yeah.
it'll be
You know,
nice.
people just like to complain. You know, I feel like because it's like you can live in Erie and still journey other places.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
that's actually what I'm trying to transition to with, you know, not educating full time, because I found myself in this weird situation where it's like, you have all this time off to travel, you got your summers, like it's perfect. But I'm like, yeah, but have you been to Erie? It's like my only time to travel is the only time it's beautiful here.
Yeah.
You know, and then I have to stay in the winter, and then I'm leaving in the summer when it's beautiful. My family's at a picnic, and I'm on my way. Why? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like,
That makes
I want to
sense.
start leaving in January. So I mean, it's okay to not want to be in Erie in the winter and shit
Yeah.
like that, you know. But it's a 4-season city, you know.
Oh, yeah.
It's a beautiful place in the summer, and you know you gotta take the good with the bad, right?
I think that's another thing too. That's an important dynamic of maybe, you know, why it's tough to get people to come out, because everything's packed into the summer. Like not everybody. There's some winter people. I'm not one of them, but most people are like the fair weather, the nice weather people, and there's so much stuff going on in the
Right.
summer. It's like people are so divided in between like events being held, family, like that kind of stuff, and
Right.
it just makes it tough to get people to get out. And then in the wintertime, you look out the window like last week and there's fucking 2 feet of snow falling. You're like, I'm not going out in that bullshit.
Right.
You know, and it just makes
Yeah.
it tough.
Yeah. The seasonal depression sets in.
For sure, dude.
For sure.
Well, that patch of snow, I did not leave. I left my house like one time to get a pumpkin pie just because I really wanted a pumpkin pie.
Right.
But other than that, I was sticking at home, dude, not going anywhere, hanging out with my dog on the couch, watching Netflix.
Right. Yeah. It's tough to push. I mean, what are you gonna do if you snowboard or ski or something?
Yeah. You can only do that so much, too.
Everything's
though.
more challenging too. Like everything you gotta do. I did notice this year being able to sleep a little more. I'm not that worried about the snow. I think it was waking up at like 6:30. It's shitty out.
Yeah.
You gotta force yourself into. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
slam down that cup of coffee real quick and fucking snow blow or
Yeah.
shovel or whatever you gotta do.
if you can adjust things, you can deal with it, right?
This must be a nice thing about being your own boss now.
Yeah, that's really that's the heart of what I was getting at there. Really is when you're able to make your own schedule, you can you have that freedom. I mean, that's what real estate is for me. That's what I was chasing from the beginning with rental properties, this and that. I don't want to have the 9 to 5 all my life. You know,
Sure.
Obviously nobody does, but that's why I try to educate people that that's one of the avenues. You know what I mean? Unless you have another solution.
Podcasting.
Yeah.
This will be
This is
our
the other solution. No, it's
We're-
probably never going to be the solution.
no. One day some royalties off of it.
Yeah,
you know,
I don't know,
that kind
dude.
of
It's
stuff.
a passion project. We're just
Right.
having fun. It's a
Right.
good excuse for me to call up boys that I haven't talked to in a while and have good conversations.
Exactly.
Yeah, hell yeah.
See what's
no, it's
going
like
on.
you guys said too. You're connecting people in the community. You know, you're starting those conversations. So
Right.
it's
you know, maybe planting some seeds out there to other people that want to get into real estate or
Exactly.
do music, open a venue, whatever it is.
or if they're
Needs a
looking to
big-
buy or sell and they want to work with someone who is
Yeah,
a
there you
real
go.
person. You know what I mean? I think sometimes that's what helps me acquire business is just
being genuine.
being genuine. You know, you deal with some people in all business worlds, and I've found it in real estate too, where they're like, I don't know, jaded or something. Like they're not expecting that they're gonna have to work for it, this or that. Whereas like,
Yeah.
if I need your house to sell, I'll be in there painting it myself. You
Right.
know what I mean? Whatever it is we need to do to get it done.
And I think that a lot of times people look at real estate as like this very easy, simple solution to find that passive income.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna buy a bunch of fucking houses and I'll fix them and whatever,
Yeah.
and they have no clue what they're getting themselves into, or
No, you're right.
or building up the clientele, or like any of the other things that come along that are a grind. You know, what I mean?
Yep.
They have to make your way into.
I feel like it's like a path of least resistance. I mean, when I was younger, like I'd think that in my head too. Like, okay, I could get into real estate. if I had a ton of money first, and I could just throw money at something and pay someone to do it, and then like the money would just keep coming in. And I think that stops a lot of people. It's like, well, you don't need like millions of dollars to get in, but you got to fucking work.
Yeah.
You know, and people don't want to, you know, like work for their passive
You really do
income.
have to bust your ass. I mean, and it's all for the greater good, because if you do, but I guess the thing is, it doesn't come easy. Nothing does. But with real estate, at least, if you do bust your ass, it pays off. Whereas some careers, some jobs, people bust their ass, you know, and it just doesn't pay off. It doesn't change their situation. So, like, no, you can't go into real estate not expecting to be brought to your knees at some point.
Right.
Like, especially if you're taking on flip properties, rehabs, like it's not that easy. You know what I mean? Even if you have other people doing the bulk of the work, there's a lot to it.
For sure.
Yeah.
How hard is it when the market like kind of flips on a dime? Like, let's say like at the beginning of COVID, how like all the interest rates were going low, and you know it was a great time to buy, and then now all of a sudden with inflation, it's like, you know, I've known multiple people who are going to buy a house, and then when the rates started hiking up, they're like, oh, I can't afford it right now. How difficult is it traversing through that?
The beginning of COVID was real crazy, and I have a side story for that. But as far as like the market changing back and forth, me as a realtor, I just change what you're chasing, right? Like if the market is crashing and is down, then that's a good time to be buying properties, you know, and investing in rentals and things like that. So the market being down isn't necessarily a bad thing, or not just buying them, but working with investors. So the market's down, so then I'm going to start reaching out to my investors that want to acquire some cheap properties and et cetera. Whereas, you know, when the market's up and people are out viciously looking for houses for some reason, then I'm going to be working with those buyers that really need to find a house at that time or want to take advantage of their interest rates. But yeah, you know, a lot of people always ask things about that, like the rates and where it's going, where the market's going. I don't know what they base their predictions off of, to be honest. I don't read into it enough. I don't really think you can tell the future.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say, but
I think everything just kind of comes in waves in all aspects of life.
Right.
Real estate, from real estate to anything that you're doing, you know, there's going to be high points, there's going to be low points, and shit's never going to stay the same.
I actually read a super interesting like financial wealth management book where in all forms of investment, it's historically shown that after a bear market, it always overperforms on the other side of it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not quite like a wave like this. It's more like a wave like that, and then it drops and then wave back up. Yeah.
Right. You know, and sometimes it doesn't really matter where the market is. Sometimes someone needs to find a home. You know, they're in a situation they need a home. So whether the rate's 3% or 6% isn't really their deciding factor. You know, I mean, when our parents were buying houses, the rates were at like 8, 10%, 12%, and that's just what the rates were then, so they didn't think anything of it. So, but now, since the rates were 3% for a while, now it's 6%, and everybody's like,
holy shit.
I have people getting their loan approvals, and they're like, but it's 6%. Like, should I just wait and buy another time? And it's like, if you don't need a house right now, I guess, but like, you know, to not make a good move because of a couple points doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, especially if it's like an investment property. Because if those couple points of interest are, then you're not making enough off the property apparently, right? Like, so it's the difference of you profiting.
Think ahead.
Yeah.
Not just jump into that. There's definitely a lot of planning, I feel like, in any big investment like real estate. You know what I mean?
Right.
You got to have somewhat of an idea of what you're looking for and what you're trying to get into.
Yeah.
And a plan before you just are like, let's fucking do it.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And everything does seem to come in waves, especially real estate. I had to refinance I didn't have to, but the smart thing to do was to refinance during COVID. And that's the way I would look at things now. If I were buying a house, I would say, like, this rate hopefully is not fucking permanent, and I will have opportunities to change that down the road. But if I'm given a good opportunity now, that's what you need to take. And I think that any good situation comes from like a seen opportunity, you know what I
Right.
mean, and taking advantage of it.
For sure. It's the opportunity cost of it. You know, you can't wait on it to wait for a better rate.
Right. The house is gonna be gone. That deal's gonna be gone.
Right.
The time to act is when the
So you do have to balance it, you know what I mean? You know.
Definitely. Well, Jarrod, this has been super fun, dude.
Yeah, for sure. I
enjoyed
appreciate
kicking
you guys
it.
having me.
Yeah.
Dude,
awesome
this is a good time,
conversation.
dude. We'll have to talk to you again, and hopefully I'll see you around, dude. You be easy.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys.
yeah.
Check out
Absolutely.
Jarrod Groves Realtor on Facebook. You got any other medias you want to plug?
No, look me up, Jarrod Groves on Facebook if you need any help buying, selling, or if you're just trying to educate yourself on ways that you can invest or where to start.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
Well, check out Jarrod and We're Everything at Once. Find us on all the socials. We love you guys. Thanks for continuing to listen, and peace out.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you.